right, everyone, welcome into the Daily Reflectors Fearless Football Forecast out here at a suddenly warm North Pitt, Ronnie. We showed up here. We showed up here about
McNair Field.
ER McNair Field. We showed up out here about 15 minutes ago, and it was nice and overcast and a little cooler. And now the sun's beating down and it's a little warmer. So we're gonna try to power through this thing. We got 5 high school football games to break down. Sitting here watching as the cross country match runs by in front of us. Got five matchups to break down this week. Ronnie coming in off a week last week where it was pretty slim. We only had 3 games. 3 teams were off. North Pitt, where we are today, is one of the teams that was off last week. They're back in action this week with their Eastern Plains Conference opener against Southwest Edgecombe, and this one feels like it's going to be kind of rough.
A little lopsided.
Right? Yeah. This was one, even as improved as North Pitt was last year. This was still one of the games that was a 50-8 result that the Panthers kind of got run off the field a little bit, and this feels like one that could potentially be the same. The Panthers are playing way better, Ronnie, than they have been in the past, but. Southwest Edgecombe is also just as good as they've been in the past, and everything about their record this year coming in at 5-1, North Pitt at 1-5. This feels like an uphill climb for the Panthers.
All right, yeah, you're gonna pick North Pitt, I assume, in this one, or not North Pitt.
No,
you're gonna pick
not
Southwest.
North Pitt, yeah,
against North Pitt.
Picking Southwest Edgecombe as some cloud cover starts to roll in here.
That's
good.
Yeah,
I think
we're squinting like crazy.
I'm definitely going with Southwest here.
All right, yeah, I misspoke there. I am as well. Despite being in Bethel and loving our Panthers, I think Southwest Edgecombe. It is an interesting matchup to some extent. We were talking about they like to run a lot. That's kind of their deal. Are they the Bears, Cougars? I can't remember what their
Cougars,
name is.
I believe.
Think.
Probably should have checked that out beforehand.
But they're run, smash mouth type of football. North Pitt, to its credit, despite its struggles, has been good against the run this year. So maybe that keeps it close. But I think in the end, the visitors are going to be too much in that one. Staying in the Eastern Plains 2A conference here, Jordan. Farmville Central off a bye week is at 3-3, sitting at 500. Travels to Nash Central. That was tough to say. Nash
Central.
Which is 5-1. Got a quarterback, Travis Griffin, throwing it all over the place. Already at 14 touchdowns. And if I remember right, Nash Central. I'm not even gonna say their name. That team is really good every year. That's kind of their style. It's one of those teams that's somewhat of a smaller school, but opens it up, passes it a lot. So without knowing a ton just about the Jaguars secondary, I know they have a lot of guys that play both ways a lot. Farmville's secondary will get put to the test for sure. A tough matchup defending the pass. That's I think that's going to be the name of the game. How they fare.
Agreed. That
passing game against Farmville's defense and specifically the secondary. How they hold up, I think, is going to determine a lot of how the game stays, the flow of the game, how if it stays close, if the Jaguars can pull an upset or so. I like Farmville. We talked about it a few weeks ago. They're so kind of unpredictable and up and down at times. But off a bye week, the injuries and health and that kind of thing is always big for Farmville, for North Pitt, for Aiden Griffin, the kind of smaller schools that don't have a huge roster and a ton of depth. So off a bye week, maybe they're a little healthy, a little rested, got some players back. But I just think it's tough to pick them in this game. So I'm going to take Nash to win, but I'm interested to see how the Jaguars respond too. But I'll take Nash to win here.
Hey, I'm with you on that one. And one of the interesting things, looking at Nash Central really quick, just their numbers so far of late, their stats on the year. Got a ton of guys who run the ball for them, but none of them averaging more than 50 yards a game. So it's like there's no one guy really in the running game. And like you mentioned, it looks like with the passing game the way it is for them, it's gonna be the passing game of Nash Central against the secondary of Farmville Central is gonna be the big matchup there. But I'm with you. I think the Jaguars, and of course we're gonna pick them, and they're gonna go in there and
They'll
win.
probably win. Yeah. They'll win by like a late field goal.
Exactly.
Or something.
Exactly. But conventional wisdom on the front side of this game says that they go in there and Nash Central gets the win. And that takes us to the last 2A matchup of the week, which is Aiden Griffin, a team that you saw very, very quickly last week in about 2 hours take care of South Lenoir. They're at Washington this week. Washington, Ronnie, is one of those teams that they're always good, but this kind of falls in with last year where they really struggled in the non-conference, and then they got to league play and were really good. This year, obviously, they've switched leagues. They're in the ECC 2A now with Aiden Griffin, so this is a conference matchup. But man, Conley is riding. I think it's a 5-game winning streak. South Central has looked really good, but Aiden Griffin's kind of sneakily kind of picking up some steam here.
Definitely,
They won 3 in a row. They won really impressive against South Lenoir last week, coming off of their bye, and I think that carries over on the road for them this week, and I think they pick up another win and run that winning streak to 4 in a row.
All right, yeah. This is one of those games probably where before the year, like you said a few weeks ago, you maybe pinpoint and say, man, Aiden Griffin going to Washington, a conference game, which is new for this matchup, might be a really good, I think it still can be a good game for sure, but yeah, I think like you said, I think the Chargers are trending upwards, and maybe Washington can get to that point, but they seem to, this Washington team is a little down this year compared to some of the teams the past 3 or 4 years that went and beat Conley and went, made deep playoff runs, that type of thing. So I like the Chargers, man. I just saw them play Friday. A lot of weapons, the 2 running backs, Bird, with kickoffs and running back, and the big guy Darden, the fullback kind of up the middle. Yep. I mean, it's kind of the same Aiden Griffin thing, but they were impressive. They dominated. I think they're, Paul Cornwell, Coach Cornwell mentioned they're practicing better. They're kind of getting that confidence, kind of hitting their stride, as they usually do. So I'll take Aiden Griffin. I don't know if they're going to win this league. I still don't, know where they stack up maybe to the better teams, but I think this is maybe the most interesting game we have, honestly, this week. But I'll take the Chargers to win a close one. I'm not going to doubt Washington at all at home or count them out in any way. But I'll think Aiden Griffin goes and kind of grinds out a victory on the road. Next game here, you mentioned South Central earlier. Rolling. I mean, 6-1, the Falcons. I mean, I hate to jinx it in any way or say it, but have to be at some point on the verge of, one of their best seasons they've ever had. I mean, it's 6-1. As far as I can go back or remember, at least I don't remember them ever having this record of a 6-1 record halfway through the year, kind of approaching 2/3 of the way through the year. So again, if I jinx that, sorry, Falcons and crew, but
totally your fault.
Yeah, blame it on me. But yeah, they're looking good. They're scoring points. They're blowing teams out. You saw a continuous clock last week covering the Falcons.
We were racing with our running clocks.
And little
you got yours first.
So yeah, they beat Southern Wayne though, which is obviously not a good team, probably the worst team in that league. So Eastern Wayne's a more difficult test. They're 3-3. One thing you've noted here in my little handy notebook is Conley beat Eastern Wayne 55-19 a few weeks ago. I hate to play the transitive property game or whatever, but if we're heading toward Conley and South Central last week of the season, the big battle for the championship, you at least, again, I hate to just completely compare numbers and scores, but you can see a test here of Conley handled Eastern Wayne pretty good. Does South Central do the same, or is it close, or how does the flow of the game kind of go? I think that you can tell a little bit of that matchup. So that's something I think I'm going to be covering this game. I'll be watching for how does South Central fare against a better team than it played last week, and maybe even better than the Rose team that played 2 weeks ago. I don't know, but yeah, it's another game for the Falcons. They're riding high, and obviously. I think I'm gonna take them. I'm gonna pick South Central again. I think they're gonna have to play pretty well. I don't think it's gonna be easy or a complete rout like some other games, but I think at home that offense, and what they're doing, I'll take the Falcons to win.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And like we mentioned, having just seen them last, I've actually seen South Central the last 2 weeks against teams that were, the Rose team we mentioned that has struggled so badly, and then Southern Wayne, which still has not won a game in that league in the 4 or 5 years that it's been in its current configuration. So hard to judge with the way that their opposition was struggling, but man, they look really, really good. And the thing about Southern Wayne, the thing about the game against Southern Wayne, they did it with they did it offensively. They had a punt block for a safety, had a fumble return touchdown, interception return touchdown. They were finding all kinds of different ways to score, which it sounds stupid to say, but that's what you got to do. You can't just lean on one facet of the game for your points. And so I think this is the interesting thing here is the fact that South Central lost this game last year. They were much improved. As I'm getting attacked by a bug here.
It's a weird bug.
We wondered how long it would take into this video before we had to do that.
The sun's gone away a little bit.
It has, yeah. Trying to wrap this thing up before the sun comes back. But yeah, a couple of extra missed extra points last year, some turnovers that kind of bit them at the wrong time, and they wound up with a 1-point loss to Eastern Wayne. So I think this year this team is a lot better than they were last year. I think at home, like we said, rolling with the momentum that they've got, that's a game that they're going to win and go to, I believe it'll be 3-0 in that league, which is.
I mean, they're probably going to be focused to some sort of a revenge factor.
Oh, without a doubt.
Zeroed in on getting a win.
Agreed, definitely. So they are at home, and then
DH Conley.
And then we go to the team with the longest winning streak in the county, which is Conley, 5-1. They're at home against an ACOC team that they went to Pikeville last year and had to score 1 million points to win.
That's right.
And I'm covering this game Friday night, and I am hoping that the same thing does not happen this year, because I can only imagine how long that game took last year. I covered Rose and Conley when they broke the record. They initially broke the record for most points in a game.
Yeah.
And now, then they went 2 weeks later, played ACOC and broke that record. And so I'm really hoping that I don't see a repeat of that on Friday, but I think
this is for
exactly.
Everybody's sake.
Well, and this is an ACOC team coming off a game. They played Rose last week, 50-49 in overtime, and came up a point short. So they've shown that they can put up some numbers, but this Conley team is so much better. I feel like defensively is a lot better than they have been. I know we've kind of beat that to death the last few weeks, but I think this is a game that Conley wins at home. I wouldn't be surprised to see ACOC score some points, maybe get into the 20s and maybe the 30s, but I think Conley could easily stand to double that because of how well that offense has been playing. So I'm taking the Vikings here.
All right, I'm going to make it a clean sweep, I guess, with our I thought about taking Farmville potentially earlier, or maybe even Washington to beat Aiden Griffin,
right.
But I'm going to take Conley for sure. I think, do you know yet when they play New Bern, or if that's coming up?
That's on in the coming weeks,
in the next week or two here.
Definitely.
New Bern's going to factor in this somehow. I don't know if they maybe beat South Central or beat Conley.
Right.
I think New Bern's the team to kind of earmark
the question mark
there.
Yeah.
But I think these Wayne County teams and even Rose, I just think Conley already beat them, obviously, but they're just better. I think Conley, against CBA Cock, a decent team, but there's just too much firepower, too much talent. Again, I know I've said it, but I think it's Conley, it's South Central, it's New Bern. Mm-hmm. One of those three is going to shake out. Right now it's looking like Conley and South Central, so I think that's status quo for another week, and we kind of move on and see an interesting race in that league, but unfortunately we're kind of waiting it out until the last week or two. So for now, Vikings are going to roll, Falcons are going to roll. I'm sticking with that.
Agreed. And so that's the 5 matchups for this week. I'll be, like I mentioned, I'm pretty sure I'll be at Conley. You'll be at South Central on Friday night. We'll have a report from here where North Pitt plays Southwest Edgecombe. We'll also have the other 2 games. We'll have reports on those in Saturday's Reflector at reflector.com. On Twitter, I'm at Reflector Jordan. He's at what is yours?
Ronnie W11.
Ronnie W11. There it is.
Correct.
We haven't been plugging those very much this year, so we're both on Twitter. You can follow us there and find us at reflector.com. Hope you guys enjoy the games on Friday night, and the sun's peeking back out here, so we're gonna take off. So we're gonna get out of here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.